I was in a bar in Yonkers, a friend of mine and me and him just having a drink, and some guy came in and he said, "Excuse me." I looked at him up. He says, "Is your name George?" I said, "Nah, sorry, I got the wrong guy." He says, "Well, this girl over there," boom, I cracked him. And
Oh my God.
well, because I knew that, because in my view, okay,
You didn't even let him get it out?
no. He says, "This girl over there," says, and boom, I cracked him because. Hey guys, welcome to the Goodfellow Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Barone. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for all the comments. And don't forget, if you like, just give us a like. And don't forget about our Patreon. That's good too. Just a couple little things in the Patreon. I won't say so many different things, but just a little fun time. Just something a little bit different. Anyways, today, guys, I'm going to talk about the how a lot of wise guys get guns and associates get guns, and a little bit about the undercover gun world. In this life, everybody knows somebody, and that's the way you gotta. That's the way it is. Sometimes a big wise guy. Most of the times he'll get the guns from the associates or soldiers in the street who are actually out there in the field, trying to make connections with this or that, and of course they're always going to bring something to the boss. That's the way it goes. A lot of the guns that I had, which I had talked about on the Johnny Mitchell podcast, the Connect, I had like 30 guns, and that really was true. At one time, I probably even had more than that, but it was about 30 guns I had. I had Uzis, I had pistols, I had rifles, I had a Tommy gun, an old style Tommy gun.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of people would die. They had guns and they were never registered, and sometimes you get them that way from family members. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to turn them into the police, and so, like I said, everybody has a connection of some kind. Other times we get them from actually the military. Believe it or not, always somebody in the military can have access to a lot of weapons. And there was one connection that I wish I would have had later on. There was a guy I knew, and I won't say his name over the air because he's still around, but he had a connection with a guy who actually used to get the guns right off the assembly line before the serial numbers were put on them. So
Wow.
yeah.
I think you mentioned that on one episode
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, something to do with that.
That gun right there, any pistol is he was getting like $2,500 just for a pistol, which is almost unheard of. The most you want to pay for a gun today is $800, depending on who or where it is.
And that's because they would pay that much for them because that's like the safest kind of illegal gun you can get.
It's untraceable.
Untraceable, right?
Untraceable. Once
Right.
once they're untraceable, it's like anything else. It's almost like counterfeit money. If it's so perfect, you're gonna pay more for it. It's almost like when you see those movies where they have the plates to make the money.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that you can have the plates to make the money, but if you don't have the right paper for it, it's that you're dead in the water. You have to have there's a certain paper for it. And you just can't go to the store and buy it. You're not gonna go to the dollar store or any place like that to get the paper.
I gotcha.
But those guns right there, with having a serial number that and not registered like that was priceless. That's why he was getting, and he was getting that $2,500 a pistol in the '90s. So think about how much that really is now. But it's worth it if you really want to be secretive or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Also, we had people that could make us the silencers, or sometimes they call them sound suppression. But silencers are a kind of a big thing, especially when you want to do things quietly, which is the silencers, for people who don't know, it actually quiets the gun down. You can still hear a little bit, but not like a real boom. Sometimes you want a real loud sound because people will get scared and they'll duck or they'll whatever. And then, of course, quietly you want it. That's why if you ever get caught with just a silencer, I think it's in the federal system, I believe it's 35 years you get automatically just for having the silencer, because you only got it for one reason. You're looking to kill somebody.
Right.
So if you include that with the gun, you usually wind up with about 40 years.
Holy shit.
Just for a silencer, 35 years. That's correct. Even kidnapping is like 30 years. If you get caught just for kidnapping somebody, it's like 30 years automatic. Yeah, they put these stringent laws on there because it makes it harder for people, and they know,
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people who get kidnapped really never make it. because they figured if they're going to do 30 years, you might as well just kill the bastard. I mean, depending on what your situation was for kidnapping somebody.
Right.
But there's all, now you like the government thinks you can go to the gun show, and you can to some degree. Some places you could even look up online. You got to be careful. You want a clean gun. You don't want no bodies attached to it, because otherwise you get caught with it. You're also going to get prosecuted for the bodies that are attached to it as well. But there's all ways to get them. Sometimes you can get them from overseas. Some people go on trips. And there's a few other ways, believe it or not, that you can get guns, and a lot of wise guys get guns too. But I'm not going to expose every little detail on this thing, because let the FBI worry about. Let them do their job. You know what I'm saying? About how they can get guns. They think they know it all. Let's see if you know everything. But there are definitely a few other ways. It's almost like when I used to have a friend that used to go to Cuba and get the cigars back in the days and bring the Cubans over. And then we used to get them cheap over there in Cuba.
Are Cuban cigars still, like, why were they illegal? It was because of a trade blockade that we had with
them?
Or,
Yeah,
some kind of...
Listen, first of all, the United States should have took over Cuba a long time ago. We didn't have to send no Bay of Pigs over. They should have sent the army over there. But because they were with Russia, we didn't want to kind of like start a war, so we kind of wanted to do it like secretly. Meanwhile, Russia took over Crimea, no problem, and nobody said nothing, you know what I mean? Well, they bitched and moaned about it, but that was it. So here it is 90 miles or 80 miles off our shore, and we don't have nothing to do with Cuba. To me, it doesn't make any sense.
So, but Cuban cigars are legal to import now, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. They might have opened it up. Who knows? People wanted them. And listen, we were able to smuggle them in. I was getting $500 a case in the before in the late 80s. $500 for a case of cigars in the 80s was a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was only paying like not even $100 for the case. So, depending on how much I could get, or my friend was able to bring back, because you got to be careful too. You only made a couple of trips because it was very scary. You can get caught.
Yeah.
In trouble. You know what I mean? That's bad. But there's all kinds of ways. A lot of guys do. When I was in Brooklyn and I used to be around, somebody had actually asked me if I knew Anthony Spiro and the Bath Avenue crew, which I'm actually going to give answer a few comments today too, and that's one of the comments. And I just happened to miss the Bath Avenue crew. They were a tough crew. I heard they all started. A few guys flipped in that crew too, but they were a tough crew. And that's the reason why I was kind of promoted to go see Anthony Spiro. He was still away when I went to go see him. I was dealing with a friend of his, Murray. And they used to have the Big Apple Car Company. And so Murray, there was a guy, Bobby DeFeo, I was with, that I met in prison, he's the one who introduced me to them down there. And to believe it or not, they got rid of Bobby. They didn't like him, and they liked me more because, I guess Bobby had a bad nose habit, but Bobby was okay. He wound up taking me for about $6,000 or something too, and I never find him. But they liked me down there. They were a class act. Anthony Spiro's crew, the people he was around, was a class act. Even a lot of those Bath Avenue guys, they were good guys too, I'm sure. I just never got a chance to meet them, but you'll see it on the thing. We'll mention that guy's thing.
Yeah.
But you have any questions about the gun world or anything like that?
Yeah, so what's the repercussions if they catch you with one of those, well, with any illegal gun, but specifically I want to know what happens if they caught you with one that you got off the assembly line that you were talking about earlier.
I don't even know, man. They probably don't even have a statute for it of anything, only because, but having a gun that's untraceable, they'll definitely want to know where it came from, and that's, you can't even, when I got arrested on my first pinch, there was some serial number scratched off the gun, and that's actually a federal crime right there.
Did they charge you on that or no?
Yeah.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
What was the...
I forget exactly all the years. First they were saying I was facing, after if I would have took a plea, like 3 years. Somebody else I say I was going to get 10 years. Who knows?
Jeez. What year was this?
In 1990.
1990?
Yeah, 90.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 90. 1990 when I took the pinch. But listen, the bottom line is if you're an ex-felon and you got caught with a gun, it's an automatic 5 years. So if you get caught with any gun, it's automatic 5 years.
Right.
Now, if you don't tell them where that gun came from, the one that's don't have the serial numbers or it never was registered or anything like that. The only thing they could do, I don't know if they could try to give you more time for that. I'm not sure.
I gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. So how many of your friends did you know that were kind of the guys you'd go to? That you
Jeez,
had a couple of them
Yeah.
that you'd go to and get your unmarked guns from and illegal guns.
One guy sold me guns. I'm not going to say his name either, too. I don't know how he had the guns or whatever the case may be, but he was looking to get rid of all of them, and I bought them all.
All of them.
All of them.
Wow.
He had like about 10 guns. I bought them all.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. They could have been his dad's.
Probably gave you a deal on them though. Bought all
Shit,
10
I
at
still
once.
paid money for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still paid a lot of money for them. But you know something? I didn't mind. I had 357s. I had 9 millimeters. I had the 18 shot, my 9 millimeter. I had the 9 shot one. I had it all.
I wanted to ask you in a previous podcast, I think 2 podcasts ago, you mentioned that you had a secret compartment in your Cadillac. So how did you
Cost me $3,000.
explain a little bit about that? What's
The-
up with the secret compartment?
So in the Escalade, so you know how like in the older ones you had the middle console in there. You still get them, I think. You still have the middle console in there. Well,
Yeah.
you could have a secret compartment anywhere, but the one I had was actually built into the console. So it would look exactly like the console. Nothing changed. The heated seats worked. You plug in for your computers. All of that stuff worked.
Right.
But I had to. I could press a few buttons, and then this thing would open up a drawer.
Are you serious?
Yep.
You had to press a couple of buttons like
Yep.
in an order and then
Simultaneously too.
Simultaneously.
Because they think if you press one button, it's gonna pop. You have to. I had to press 3 at the same time.
and then it would open up like a little lock.
Right
would
out of the drawer,
disengage.
yeah. Now
Oh wow, that's awesome.
A lot of people get that there for just normal purposes. You put a wallet in there.
Yeah.
No one would ever look because you can't. You would have to take the whole thing apart to even try to get it.
How much did it cost you to get that done?
And back in the '90s, I paid. After the '90s, it was it was almost before I took my other pinch. It was in 2000, somewhere in the 2000s. I paid $3,000 to have that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but it was
Wow.
worth it because nobody found it. I got pulled over. Even if the dog comes and sniffs it, it's with the compartment was laced with something. I forget how they did it, but the dog couldn't smell it either.
Wow. So you must have had a guy that did that for you. You had a
I had a
special
guy.
guy. It wasn't you didn't just go to any auto body shop.
No. I knew
I
a
got
guy
you.
that knew a guy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I definitely
I hear
had
you.
it. But it was well worth it and it was a big compartment because the console's pretty wide. So he was able. I used to carry my 357 in there. I like the automatics and stuff like that. Unless you got like a Beretta or something like that, I like those guns. But you always want to have the revolver. It's it never fails. Yeah, it never fails. And having a big revolver too helps.
Right.
Listen, a 357 can go right through an engine block.
Yeah, you kill a bear with that thing. you know?
Absolutely. Although I would rather not shoot a bear.
Yeah.
I like animals, you know what I mean? But yeah, absolutely. It's a dangerous weapon. But if I needed it, I had it. And that's, you always got to listen, a wise guy, an associate, a soldier, everybody has to have an access to a gun in that kind of life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But there was a time when I was supposed to get rocket launchers. I was supposed to get the grenades. I had a
Rocket launchers?
Yep, had a guy for a rocket launcher who was going to give me a rocket launcher. I gave him $7,000. This was in the '80s. I gave him $7,000 to get the rocket launcher. I had
Oh
grenades.
my
I had a
God.
case of grenades coming. I had I like the bigger weapons because they make a bigger statement. you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you stick a your head out of the side of the Cadillac with the side
Oh
of the
my
Escalade
God,
with the
forget.
rocket launcher in your hand.
Well, there was a good movie. There was that movie John Wick.
Yeah.
Was that part 2? I think where he had.
I haven't seen them.
Well, the Italian guy came when he blew up his whole house.
Holy
With this
shit.
one gun, and he just put the stuffs in there, and that was it. I mean, the weapons, of course, gotten a lot more fancier, which is good. And let me tell you something. My uncle told me a long time ago. He was a Vietnam vet. He said, "You ever want to scare the police department? You outgun them, because listen, the police department's got tanks. They got all kinds of stuff now. They're ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys ever saw the news years ago. I think it was in the '90s, where the guys in California, they robbed the bank. They had full armor from head to toe. Cops were shooting them. They didn't get knocked down. They were shooting back.
They had bulletproof armor on.
Everything from head to toe.
Holy
They
shit.
robbed the bank, and I guess there was a big shootout because I guess somebody made the call or they couldn't get out in time, and
Yeah.
they shot up all the cops and everything, bro.
Really? And they survived and they made it out?
Yeah, no, I don't know if they made it out. They might have got killed later on or
Yeah.
whatever it was. But that's the reason why cops they have all the super armor things. The SWAT teams couldn't take them down.
Holy shit! I never even heard of that.
Yeah, you could
That was
probably
in the
Google
90s?
it. It's in California in the '90s, I believe it was. Yeah,
Wow,
they were. You saw them right on TV. They were filming them how they were shooting at the cop. Beam, ba boom, ba yeah.
that's
They
crazy.
had M16s, I think, and
scary.
everything. Yeah, listen, like I said, think about how a person, if you get robbed in your house and he just comes in with one gun is scary. Your whole family's at risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's scary. When I've seen a lot of guys that, listen, I can't say all of them. There was a lot of guys that had a gun put to their head and they said, pull the trigger, they don't care.
Yeah,
And then there's some guys that will shit their pants. It all depends on the situation. Even me, when I got arrested on I took my second pinch, the FBI had the gun to my head again. I pushed the gun in my head. I said, get that fucking gun out of my head. But the FBI guys, I didn't think they'd shoot me. But if they shot me, what am I going to do? But for some reason, sometimes, I'm not saying I'm not afraid or nothing like that. I've never lied. And I ain't going to say that. But I guess because it happened such a spur of the moment so quickly that I just reacted and I didn't care then,
yeah.
And I've done that. I've done that a lot of times in my life, and sometimes it saved me. Other times it got me in trouble because I reacted too quickly. There was a guy I was just telling my girlfriend that there was a guy that come up to me in Yonkers. I was in a bar in Yonkers, a friend of mine and me and him just having a drink, and some guy came in and he said, "Excuse me." I looked at him. He says, "Is your name George?" I said, "Nah, sorry, you got the wrong guy." He says, "Well, this girl over there," boom, I cracked him. And
Oh my God.
well, because I knew that, because in my view, okay,
You didn't even let him get it out?
no. He says, "This girl over there," says, and boom, I cracked him because I could tell. First of all, I would never give my fake name. I didn't have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
But I could tell he was either looking for a problem. He might not even been looking for a problem. I don't know. I never found out. I ran out the bar.
Did he? So you never found out after that what he wanted to even say to you?
Nope. He said, "My girlfriend says that," and then I hit him. And then, because I was thinking that either she's trying to get me beat up or have a fight or whatever, so I just beat the guy to the punch. It's called a preemptive strike.
It's called a pre. I respect it.
This is, to be honest with you too, in one way, I'm a little always afraid. And I think that's why I hit him first anyways too, because I'm not going to, because your heart starts pounding and stuff, and you're
Yeah.
going to have a fight and stuff like that. And, sometimes it's better to hit first and then find out later, like, why did you come up to me? Well, I told you my name wasn't George. They should have said, "Oh, okay, sorry to bother you," or walk away or something. No, the guy says, "Well, this girl says that you," boom,
Boom.
that's it, bing, that's it, one shot. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know how far back he went.
So
I don't know if he fell
you didn't
down.
know him then? It was just
I
some
have
random
no
guy.
idea. Yeah, he was a little shorter than me, not much, by about an inch or so. I can remember that. Dark hair, the usual Guido-looking type of dude, whatever. And he just picked the wrong guy that time. That's it. I never saw him again. I never heard from him. I don't know what happened. My friend, he says the guy was down. He went out, and because he came out of the bar later, I ducked, but and ran out because I don't want people to see me and I don't want to get in trouble. So
Right.
that was one of the punches I got away with. I got a few of those punches I got away with, believe it or not. But yeah, so as going back as far as the gun, the thing is, there's always ways to get a gun. You always got to know somebody. Just like they get pills, they get drugs, they get anything they want. It all depends on. Is it a lucrative business to be a gun salesman? Yeah, let me tell you something. With all the terrorists out there, and as a matter of fact, I had an Albanian friend, and that's one of the questions I want to answer some comments.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who was Albanian, and I was trying to get this connection I thought I still had. It was in Italy, and Italy and Albania, they're only right across I can't say the river, but the ocean. You can get to, because a lot of Albanians go to Italy.
Yeah.
Like that. So there was a big war going on there. I forget exactly when it was, and I was trying to get my friend. His father had big connections in there, and the Albanian guys, for the most part, a lot of them really ain't bad guys. They good. They are good guys. A lot of them. I mean, they came here a little bit. Some of them a little cocky, a little bit bigger than their britches, of course. But like anybody else, I guess they tried to make a name for themselves. But there was a lot of Albanian guys out there that were good guys, and I'll get into that with the comments later. But if I could have got these weapons shipped from Italy to Albania, He told me, he says, Joe, you could go to Albania. They'd love you there because they were real fighters there too. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were serious people. And this happened. This guy, who I'm not going to mention, and his dad and his mom. I hope they're still alive. I don't know. His mother, his father. I loved his father. His father was a great guy. He used to be. I used to see him with his son all the time, and his son is a good guy. I don't want to say their names or anything like that because the guy's he's in a different fraction of work. But these were really good people. Really good people. Yeah. And they keep a lot of, and what I like about them too is that they keep to their codes. Wife is supposed to stay where she's supposed to stay, and not associate with outsiders and things like that. See, that's what happened to the world today. It's almost like the wise guys. We used to try to keep within ourselves. We didn't really reach out too much, and if we did, the guy would have to come up with some real good stuff. I think that's the reason why they had that movie Donnie Brasco, because how Joe Pistone infiltrated Donnie Brasco, and he portrayed himself to be infiltrated because he had a really good type of thing going on for himself. He was a diamond thief and all of this baloney. He was able to fight, handle himself, and Lefty Two Guns. Lefty was he was no joke. He was probably got, I don't know how many bodies he probably got under his belt, but you really got to prove yourself to get in, and that's what I like. You can't infiltrate that easily. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
And that's what I like. Any other questions about the gun world? Anyway, the guns, you can get them anyways today, and you see, I think it might even be actually easier today, even though they try to make it harder. Yeah, believe it or not.
Well, there's like 3D printed guns and like polymer gun, right? And like all types of like undetectable through the metal detectors and shit like that, right?
Yep, and you could also get a guy who can build them, make them yourself. They make them. That guy is very valuable. He make bullets too for you too. There was a guy I was in prison with, and I won't say his name either. He got caught. He was getting methamphetamine in 5-gallon drums. He was facing a lot of time.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he had something to do with, there was something at Kennedy Airport, there was a shipment there. I mean, this guy was big. He had told me once, he says, you know something? He says, instead of having a factory where all the people can get caught making methamphetamines, he says, why don't we have it all done robotically? In other words, no humans in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it without having being there.
Right.
And I said, wow, that's an excellent idea. But you see, this is how people think. When you're in that kind of world, you always want to beat it. Now, if they go to the shop and they try to get it, who's there? Who's there? Prove it. Who's there?
That's true. No witnesses.
No witnesses.
Yeah, that's
Nothing.
true.
No people to ever worry about snitching on you or whatever. And you can run the shop remotely. See, that's why I said, I think I might have been talking to my girlfriend the other day about this too. Technology is good, and it's also harmful. It's like anything else in this world. If you work out 7 days a week, you're really not doing yourself any good. You're not giving your body any time to recuperate. So too much working out is going to be no good. Plus, with all the free radicals you're going to be breathing in, you got to do everything sort of like, I guess a lot of Jewish guys used to say, moderately. You know what I mean? You don't have to eat steak every night. Eat it once a week, twice a week, twice a month, whatever. Just do things in moderation, But this guy here, he says, if you could have did that, he says, and have it all built up like that, could you imagine the assembly line you could have? Now, you worry about what property is it on. Well, anybody can come up with fake names to buy property.
Yeah.
Corporations, all of that stuff. Forget about it. Anything could be done, and you can do it all from your house. Oh, look at that. Holy shit, look the cops are there. Boom, boom,
Yeah.
Maybe you could have explosives and have the whole place blow up when they walk inside. Because
That's advanced shit.
I'm telling you, there's so much stuff you can do in the criminal world with technology today. Look at all the computer hacks they do.
Yeah.
They get millions of dollars from. They can shut the grid down. They can do so many things. So if you're able to be a good hacker or whatever it may be, you can do anything.
Absolutely. Joe, did you want to, there were some questions. I think we want to do a Q&A, correct?
Yes, please. I always like to, and we've talked about this plenty of times. I always like to get in touch with my viewers because I appreciate every input, even the guys that give me insults. I don't mind. But you guys are being really good to me, being loyal followers and stuff, and I really appreciate it. And so I'm going to answer your questions to the best of my ability.
Okay, Joe, to start, we have Xavier James 8085. Two quick questions. During your time undercover, did you ever get any leads about what happened to your father? Also, the second question is, how do you think your story differs from Greg Scarpa? So we'll start with the, did you get any leads ever about your father?
No, unfortunately, and that's another thing I think I had mentioned before. You mean to tell me after all the 18 years undercover that I was working, nobody ever got said anything about my father? And I guess that's probably what kept me thinking like, well, maybe these guys did lie to me about what happened to my father. Not one lead, not one hint. At least that's what my handler, Vincent Pizzuti, because I will say his name on the air because he was my handler. And he's supposed to be working for the Newburgh Police now, but yeah, not one lead. I hate to say that. The other one was with Greg Scarpa, right?
How do you think your story differs from Greg Scarpa?
Well, Greg was a real gangster. I was an associate, and Greg also, he really got to use the FBI. He was a little bit more cunning than I am, a lot tougher than I am. And Greg was the real deal. So I think I'm still alive too. That's another thing. But Greg was somebody you didn't want to mess around with. I've said that plenty of times. Most people who knew Greg or heard of him knows the same thing.
They used to call him the Grim Reaper, correct?
Not to his face. Yeah, but not to his face. Yeah,
Right.
because he was the real deal. He wound up getting supposedly AIDS later on
Holy shit.
from a blood transfusion. Believe it or not, that's why they screen a lot of the blood now and the people who give you transfusions because
Wow.
you got to test because that's how people get sick, or you can get a bad virus of some kind, even if it ain't AIDS or something else you can get too.
Right.
So they really screen it, but he was the real deal. But he actually really used the FBI. I did to my best of my knowledge, but he made money from the FBI. I didn't. So he made money in the street. They let him actually earn money in the street. I think they might have turned a blind eye to some of my loan sharking and stuff like that, but he really was out there. I mean, they let him have like more leeway than I ever had. So I think it differs also in that. But yeah, no, there was Greg and I were totally different in a lot of different ways. But like I said, there was actually a story where he supposedly went out to, I think it was New Orleans or someplace, to find out about some killings out there, and he almost killed the guy, or he did kill the guy or whatever, to find out information that they wanted, and they turned a blind eye to it.
Wow.
Always remember one thing. The FBI does not care. They just want to be able to protect themselves. So what they'll do is they'll say, well, we sent a guy out there and by accident he got killed or something like that. The end justifies the means for the FBI. They don't care. They have the power. They have unlimited resources as far as money, and this and that. So, and then they go to their upper echelon people and they just say, we need him in there. We have to let him do whatever he wants, but we're going to get information, and that's all we want.
Right.
And that's all it cares. They don't care how they obtain it or whatever. They don't care.
This is not a question, just a comment from Hermosa Fish. I'm going to go ahead and echo this comment. You and Dom are my favorites, and Mikey Scars equally.
Something, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. That's very, very kind. I never got the chance to meet Mikey Scars, but I think Dominic is going to introduce me to him, and we might even do a show, the three of us together. Of course, I heard of Mikey Scars out there. Good guy from what I understand. And Dominic's going to introduce me to him too. And of course, everybody knows my relationship with Dominic. Dominic is a good friend to this day. I'm very happy.
John Sifredi says, was Gianni Russo a killer?
I don't know if I know Gianni Russo. Was it Russo or Russo?
Russo.
Russo. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I know Gianni Russo. So I can't answer that honestly. Don't forget, remember one thing, I was only an associate too. So I did know some people. I was able to meet some people. A lot of people I met while I was in prison. And so, I don't know everybody, but I don't recall him. Sorry about that.
Rolling Stone says, hey Joe, I got some questions for you. Did you ever have any dealings with the Albanians in the Bronx?
Absolutely, I did. I did with Dominic, as well as on my own. I used to actually work out with a few of them in this gym in Yonkers called Top Brass. And there was some, and like I said before, there's a lot of Albanians guys. This guy Lenny and a couple of the other guys. They were really good guys, believe it or not. Some of them from Arthur Avenue. To be honest with you, they were nice guys. And then, some of them tried to play the role tough guy too much. Dominic had some dealings with most of them then. But yeah, I did meet a few of the Albanians in the Bronx. And like I said, I got nothing bad to say about them. Not at all.
Well, they're pretty really similar to the Italians too.
To some degree, yeah, absolutely. Like I even mentioned it, what I said to my friend. I mean, listen, they know how to treat somebody if they you got a good working relationship with them. Everybody's earning money. I mean, of course, they're just regular guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Geographically
Some of them were pretty
too.
tough too, though.
Like you said, geographically, Italy and Albania are very close
Exactly.
to each other.
And don't get me wrong, some of these guys were tough too. They can handle themselves, and they're not going to be slouches.
The second question from Rolling Stone there was, did you ever hear of any stories of the Purple Gang in East Harlem?
Oh, of course. I remember the Purple Gang mostly from the Bronx, from my area. Listen, these guys were, a lot of them were kind of coked up. There was a guy, his name was, I believe it was Mike Salerno. His father was connected. His father was Mike Salerno, but there was a guy, Frank Salerno. He'd come to my house and borrow money from my father, and Mike Salerno, who was a wise guy at that time, before my father was, and he said, "Don't give my son any money no more." But my father liked the guy Frank, and it was always good to have these guys under his belt. This guy Frank used to come to my house. He's dead now, and he actually drove around in the Bronx with a dead guy in a trunk tied up in barbed wire and for about 2 or 3 days, and was showing everybody that he killed him for whatever reason. I don't know why. But
Jeez.
this guy had a blank look. He'd look at me and goes, "Hey Joe, your father in?" "Sure, come on in." And he just sat there. He was fucking blank look on his face, bro. I mean, he was scary looking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he just looked right through you. My father would come down. I'd leave them alone and talk in the living room, and whatever the guy now. But the guy borrowed money from my father, but believe it or not, he came in and
Paid him back?
paid him back. Yeah, because I guess maybe it was a definite go-to. There was a guy named, I think his name was Donnie. He was in top brass too in Yonkers, and he was by himself, and I think he had something to do with a flower shop in the Bronx too. But he was in top brass, and some bartender said to him, "Excuse me," he says, "Did you see any money here? Some lady left some money here." And the guy Donnie just went, "Nah." He said, "Well, because," he says, "Hey, what'd I tell you?" He says, "I told you I didn't see anything, right?" And so the bartender wanted to be like, thought he was tough too, whatever, for a minute.
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, yo, take it easy, pal." So Donnie opened up his jacket. Had a sport jacket on. He had the gun there, and he goes, "You feel froggy?" He says, "Go ahead, frog, jump." And the guy bitched up after that because Donnie
Holy
would have shot him.
shit.
Yeah, Donnie would have shot him.
Yeah, I would have pissed my pants.
Oh, yeah,
honestly.
without a doubt. This guys were serious. As a matter of fact, they used to shoot each other when they didn't have nobody else to shoot because they were so coked up. They were crazy. If they would walk into a bar, 5 or 6 of them or whatever, most of the people, the bar had emptied out because they knew there was
Wow.
going to be a shooting there.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys were tough. A lot of these guys were dangerous back in those days, I remember. Yeah, but that's about the most I've heard of them. And like I said, I only knew one of them. I know his cousin too. Frank Salerno was a good guy too. When I came home from the joint on my first bid, I went to the Lincoln dealership at the time. I might have told the story, and I had a bag full of money. I had my 45 in there, and I wanted to buy the Lincoln LSC, black on black. And he said to me, he goes, "It's a lot of money to be carrying around with you." Because I said, "Yeah, I'll buy it. Look at this. I got no problem, And he said, "It's a lot of money to carry." I said, "Maybe you didn't look deep enough in the thing." And then I showed him the 45.
Oh, shit.
So he was connected with Frankie Salerno. And Frank says, of course, I knew him too, Frank. And he called up and asked about me. And he said, I guess he talked or whatever, and I went back to go get the car, but I didn't bring the gun, I didn't bring the money, because I figured once I showed him now, if he was going to call the cops on me, I don't know what kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
And so anyways, he came and he says, "Joe, can I call you in the office?" I said, "Okay, I'm going to get arrested now." but I was ready because it's his word against mine.
Right.
So I went in there and he says, he says, "Look, I hope you don't mind." He said, "Do you know Frank Salerno?" I said, "Sure I do." He says, "Well," he says, he's a with him, I guess, under him or whatever. He says, and I'm around him. He says, and I asked him about you because I guess the way I came in there like a kind of a gangbuster in one way. And he says, he told me he could do anything for you. So now after I left that place with the new LSC, I went to Frankie's place in Eastchester, and I said, thank you, Frankie, for vouching for me. I appreciate that.
Wow.
Frankie was a good guy. Had one of the best car detailing places around. Yeah, he used to take the tires off the car to detail the car. I mean, he was good, Frankie. I liked Frank.
This one's from Dominic. Mafia Roundtable says, "Hey, Joe and Mo, looking good. Love your brother Dom."
Love you too, Dominic. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Dom. And guys, if you don't know, go subscribe to Mafia Roundtable. It's Dominic Sicali's YouTube channel. He's got great content,
Oof.
great stories, funny stuff, serious stuff, and very interesting stuff. Go give him a subscribe. Show him some love.
And he's right on the money too. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw on the History Channel. He was on the History Channel the other night.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
what was the segment?
it's about the mafia, obviously, and stuff.
It was a mafia documentary kind
And
of
there
thing?
was a lot of things and there's a lot of things that what they did was they actually played a lot of the recordings that they recorded against on Vinnie Gorgeous.
Oh, really?
And sure enough, as my brother said, as my Dominic said, plenty of times, what happened? There's the recordings right there to prove everything that Dominic was saying was right again.
Yep.
So, yeah, go on Mafia Roundtable. It's an excellent show, and don't forget to try the E.G. vodka he's got too. Ooh, he made me try it when I saw him. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get some more for myself. It was that good.
John Holmes says this show was great. Keep them coming, Joe.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate it. If there's anything you need to hear about or you want to ask about too, don't feel ask. We don't mind. Because sometimes, like I said, just like I could answer some questions, some people I know, some people I didn't know. So don't feel embarrassed or anything. Just ask what you want to ask. I don't care how foolish or you might think it is, because sometimes it's not.
Lisa Benny 2859 says, "Glad you're back, Joe. I hope you feel comfortable answering this question. Do you know your Italian lineage, where your family originally came from in Italy? I ask because my mom's maiden name is her father is a Barone.
Wow.
And my paternal grandfather Barone was one of 23 siblings from Sicily. Wow.
Damn, somebody was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Barone's a very common Italian last name, though. Very,
Well,
very common.
Lisa, thank you for that question. As you know, probably even I'm not probably going to tell you something you don't already know, but for the viewers, Barone in Italy is means baron. So it's like a kind of a higher position. So it's like you're a baron when you're a Barone. I have a thing that what Barone means, and I'll see if I can. I'll go into my storage unit. I'll see if I can find it. I'll bring it up next week, maybe, or no, because you'll be going next week. So, the next podcast, I'll see if I can bring it. But I know that my father's side of his family, I don't know exactly where in Sicily they're from, but obviously they are from Sicily, and my mother's side are from Calabria. So I'm actually half Calabrese and half Sicilian. I'm like 80% whatever it was. I forget. I did that stupid.
Ancestry.
Ancestry.com, yeah. Then they said 2% I'm from Africa. I'm
It
like,
changes every 6 months. I look at it. It's
yeah,
completely
they
different.
keep sending me new emails.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
too.
So they said one time I was then I was Middle Eastern, and I was like, or like a 2% or 3%, whatever it was. It was ridiculous. But thank you, Lisa, for that. I'm gonna bring in this thing that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago, and I'll see it's a plaque and it says Barone, the lineage of the Baron, what it really means, and I hope you enjoy it. But thank you for that question. I appreciate it.
Suzanne Burnfield says, "Hey Joe, I'm from the Bronx. Love your content and Dom's. Can't wait to watch what's next to come. The people with the lying comments are ridiculous, as if they know your life and they walked in your shoes. Did they live your life or Dom's life or something? Thanks for sharing."
That's Susan.
That's Suzanne Burnfield.
Suzanne, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And something, you make a very valid point too, because nobody understands. Like you said, don't judge me unless you walk in my shoes. Anybody can say, "Oh, I would never do this," or I wouldn't do that," and that's could be true sometimes. Sometimes people really mean it, and but then again, when you're faced with the story, as you know, as you have been watching the podcast, and I appreciate that. Nobody knows what you're gonna do in this situation. There's like, and I always just go back to the prize fighters in boxing, like this guy go, yeah, I'm gonna get in the ring. The first round, I'm gonna do this. The second round, I'm gonna maybe in the third round, I'll knock him out, like that kind of stuff. But the minute the guy gets punched in the face, the whole fight changes.
Yeah, the whole game plan changes.
The whole game plan's out the window, and you just react more like on emotions or instinct or whatever you want to say. But yeah, Suzanne, I appreciate that, and even the bad comments. Listen, some people say too, like, oh, everybody finds God. He said the minute they got the handcuffs on, you get religious. I've been brought up as a Catholic, and that kind of thing since I'm a kid. So I'd never just found God because I got arrested. It was good to read the Bible while I was during my incarceration and stuff like that, and get a kind of a better understanding of things. But it was about my dad, as you guys been probably watching and stuff like that. So. I never make excuses, but that was my story, and that's what made me do what I did. But I probably would have never ratted either. But then like I said, you always hear guys that say, well, your father was in that life. What do you expect? I don't disagree with that either. But he's still my father, and as a son, I felt I had to do what I had to do, right, wrong, whatever. So, but thank you, Suzanne, for that.
Mac265 says, did you know the Bath Avenue crew and Jimmy Calandra?
No, no, I only heard of Bath Avenue crew. Never had the pleasure of meeting anybody there. I know I heard about the time that I don't know if it was the guy John or whatever that pushed Anthony Spiro in the street. You're not supposed to put your hands on a wise guy, even if you are another wise guy. But then I heard they had to kill their own guy.
The one that pushed him, they killed him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, just for pushing him.
I don't know if that was John, yeah, because you can't do that. And it shows the other wise guys that you're going to willing to kill your own friend over pushing a wise guy. That means you're willing to stick to the rules. And it's a shame the way that happened. I mean, I think even from what I understand, the Bath Avenue, they had some kind of robbery, somebody ratted them out and they got caught or whatever, and then whatever. But they were a tough crew. And 85th and Bath Avenue was actually where I think was the Big Apple Car Company. So these guys in Brooklyn, it was a lot of fun going down there at that time. And I wish I did meet them, but I didn't have the pleasure of that. But no, I didn't. So, but I heard good things, and then of course some people became government witnesses like me and stuff too.
So Robbie from Canada says, just wanted to say you're a class act. You're honest, humble, and character with great smartness, and I like the way you speak. I like the shows a lot. Keep on the great work. Wow.
Thank you, Robbie. Yeah, appreciate that a lot. Not too often you always get some good comments, right, like that. But
yeah, that was a really nice one.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Keep watching, and same thing to you, Robbie. Anything you think you want to hear or something like that, mention it. Or I don't care if it's about somebody or even just a story or what is it really like. Anything you want.
I think that was all the comments and questions that people had, Joe. That was the last one. I just want to say thanks, everybody. Thank you to all the watchers and listeners for 500 subscribers. It's a huge milestone.
Yeah.
And we hit it relatively quickly, too, which me and Joe are ecstatic about.
Yep.
We love the support that you guys show, and we're very grateful for it. And so just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And here's to 1,000 up next.
Guys, have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.